Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show, brought to you by Over the Bar. We are tuning in tonight for yet another big show, reviewing all that is going on in the Bundesrepublik, reflecting and looking back at match week 13, and all and anything else that we can discuss in the next hour or so. Joined tonight by Peter. How are you doing this evening? How are things on your end?
Oh, quite good, and it's a pleasure to be with you once again. I don't recall the last time that we were together, but it's always a pleasure. So great to be here, and good to see you.
Yeah, it has been a while, especially since you and me did a duo act. As the more sharp viewers of you will realise, no Mark this evening. He's been snowed under with work stuff, so hopefully he can tune in and maybe watch a bit of the show later on once he's got rested up for the evening. A few bits of admin. Then we're going to do a bit of kiosk club with Peter. Obviously not done it for a while, and there's some interesting topics that we want to kind of share with you all. Then we'll get into it. Match week 13, loads of really interesting matches, some great games as well to reflect on. And I know, good morning, Justin. I know you asked a couple of questions prior to the show going live, so we'll come on to that. Very topical with Bayern, by the way. Also, just to reflect, I'm not wearing a Bayern top, as some people might actually think. Obviously not as a VfB sympathiser. I've got my Tasmania Berlin top on, so just in case people were confused. Let's go. A few little bits of admin. Please do like, comment, subscribe, turn on your notifications. On the big run into the Christmas break, loads of shows, loads of content for you all to enjoy, and make sure you give a follow to Bundesliga Box as well, a brilliant partner, and also try and secure yourself a great Bundesliga box, although it might be tricky now for Christmas. I think you've left it too late if you're trying to get one now. Obviously, of course, go check out bullynews.com on all social media platforms, Blue Sky as well, and of course you can find them online. Right, Peter, I shall gladly hand over to you for a bit of kiosk, and you can run us through it, and of course show the YouTube viewers who are obviously being able to digest it, obviously from a visual context, but obviously I'm sure for our podcast listeners as well, you'll be able to explain everything that's going on in the Bundesrepublik.
I have a quick question for you, Rory. Where did you get a Tasmania Berlin tricot? Was that from Bundesliga boxes?
Of course.
Wow. Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll be talking about that record if Bochum keep up with their current form. But in any event, we decided that we would provide a very special kiosk for our viewers this evening in the event that viewers might be interested in delving deeper into several off-the-pitch issues involving German football. And this, of course, applies to you as well, Rory, if there's something that you'd like to talk about more, or something that you're a little bit curious more of. So I prepared 4 stories based on my sacred schlep to the kiosk here today. First and foremost, I'm glad that Justin is here. Our first story does involve some protests that took place at the Kiel versus Leipzig match, and it was namely the return of the Fadenkreuz, the crosshairs. The crosshairs, some may recall the anti-Dietmar Hopp protests that took place, began in 2018 and also took place January, February of 2020. The crosshairs did return to Holstein Stadium this Saturday, and 4 figures were put in the crosshairs. We had Dietmar Hopp, we had Jürgen Klopp, we had Leipzig CEO Oliver Minzlaff, and of course Hannover 96 President Martin Kind. These protests, of course, are something that we can talk about more if people are interested in doing so. On the topic of protests, we also have, of course, the World Cup certification coming on Wednesday, the ratification for Saudi Arabia. And the Süddeutsche here is leading with Alles auf Grün, everything on green. The DFB, the German FA, has been compelled to make some statements as to why they are supporting the Saudi Arabian bid for the 2034 World Cup, even though Germans were most adverse to the Qatari World Cup and very much hoping that there would be no more direct corruption within FIFA. That's probably hoping against hope. But the DFA has been unapologetic, and they've said that they are doing this out of realpolitik, and we can, of course, discuss that a little more if people are interested. On the topic of money still, Bayern had their Mitgliederversammlung, or their annual meeting, over the weekend, and the headline here is Kaiser, Company und Kohle. Kaiser is obviously a reference to Franz Beckenbauer. They officially retired his jersey. Company, the FCB head coach, who has them at the top of the league, and we'll talk a little bit about why Eintracht Frankfurt are not looking like likely title challengers anymore later in the show. Kohle, the German word for coal, also means scratch or money. And Bayern have, of course, broken the $1 billion mark. And this year's annual meeting and the presentation, many people are arguing, was strategically timed for the other big issue surrounding German football at the moment, which is the new media rights deal. This was awarded officially at the end of last week. The way that it works in the Bundesliga is that it's awarded every 4 years. Of course, there's a few things to report about which broadcasters will now be covering which matches. The biggest debate and the biggest issue, as always, is the issue of the revenue sharing stream, which Bayern, of course, is going to make the case, but they already have made the case that they deserve more of a certain proportion of this because they are the German representatives in Europe and globally, and they need more money in order to be better German representatives and draw more people to the Bundesliga. So, as Justin points out, it's been controversial for a while now. As a matter of fact, we have this debate every 4 years in Germany. I covered it extensively 4 years ago when they awarded the last media rights deal. And we're having the same debate again. Again, we can go into further detail if Rory, if you have any questions, or if some of our viewers have any questions, I'd be happy to. But we, of course, have a lot of football to get to as well, and I don't want to run the risk of boring anyone to death with a lecture from Professor Peter. Don't worry, none of this is going to be on the test. But I certainly don't mean to go into to further detail unless someone is curious, of course.
Yeah. No, they're four very happening, topics right now, aren't they? In the across the Bundesliga. One thing I'm interested in, I suppose, is in regards to the media rights and the TV deals that will be struck. Is there a worry? And I'm not as read up on this as you, by all means, Peter. So this is my question to you. Are clubs therefore worried about TV deals impacting the different kickoff times? Because obviously right now we have the Friday night game, obviously Saturday afternoon, the Saturday late game or evening game, early evening game, and then the Sunday afternoon staggered ones. One thing that was not too popular, I think, if I recall rightly, was the Monday night game, which obviously we have a lot in the Premier League. So is there any thoughts or rumours about maybe reintroducing a Monday game or messing around with kickoff times at all?
No, the kickoff times will remain the same. And as a matter of fact, the bidding process was structured around the kickoff times. The packages were structured a little bit differently now. So the kickoff times will be precisely the same. And what started a bidding war, of course, was that DAZN, the German broadcaster DAZN, which is in direct competition with Sky, they wanted the more lucrative package. So they were willing to forego the Friday kickoffs, and they wanted the Bundesliga Konferenz, which is the what do you call that? Do you have something like that in England where all of the matches are simulcast simultaneously on?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I think it's.
On the last day, like the last day of the season, like when they're all at the same time, or is that what you mean?
Well, the 15:30 kickoffs. There is there's in the States when they're covering the Premiership, NBC Sports calls it breakaway, meaning there's a simulcast of all of this stuff, and if something happens in each respective game, they'll go directly to it. Right, so that is completely So DAZN has secured the rights to that. As a matter of fact, DAZN was initially rejected back in the initial auction in February because the DFL wanted them to prove, DAZN is a relatively new broadcaster, they wanted them to prove long-term solvency. They weren't able to do this to the DFL's specifications. DAZN countersued and argued that they weren't given enough time for this, and DAZN ultimately won it, and there was a new auction. So DAZN is the big winner out of this. They are. Now, is this? I see that Mark has joined us, and he is saying, "Long live DAZN." That is absolutely Mark's opinion on those matters. I mean, I tend to like DAZN more than I like Sky, but it's also important to note that one of the more frustrating things for German domestic football fans now is that DAZN's subscription prices keep going up. Every time you log into DAZN, they say, well, you can't watch this unless you have the super duper premium membership. And you think to yourself, well, wait a minute, I thought I already secured the super duper premium membership. But no, that was the super membership. So, of course, you got to pull out your credit card and do this again. What this does translate to in any event is going to be obviously much higher subscription fees on both Sky and DAZN for German viewers. That is not a question. Germans are mostly satisfied with the fact that DAZN, of course, picked up the Bundesliga conference, and that's not in the hands of Sky. Those are the 15:30 kickoffs. That certain matches that are on free-to-air TV have been preserved through German broadcaster ZDF and also RTL. And most importantly, the Sportschau will be allowed to show full highlights from 6 o'clock onwards on Saturday evening. I do know exactly what the Sportschau equivalent in the UK is. That would be Match of the Day. So, indeed. When it comes to the issue of revenue sharing, we can say, okay, again, I don't want to bore anybody to death, so I'll try to put this concisely. Essentially, you have 4 pillars, and the 2 pillars are the biggest pillars. About 50% of the revenue that comes from this deal, and this is a $4 billion deal over the course of 4 years, goes to it's split evenly among the 36 clubs in the first 2 divisions. All of the top tier Bundesliga sides will get 26 million. All of the second tier sides will get 7 million annually. Approximately 43%, okay, so we're at 93% with 2 pillars together, is going to go to teams based on what place they are in the league table. It'll be structured in that way. So big money for these teams in any case. Now, when we get to the remaining 7%, which are split among the 2 pillars, here's where we get the controversy. Here's where we get the debate. The clubs that attract more viewers are entitled to a greater piece of that pie. Now, this is only 7% of the revenue, but when you think about $1 billion a year television deal, this is still serious money. This is enough money for Bayern to sign Joshua Kimmich and Jamal Musiala to those lucrative new contracts that they want to sign them to. Alphonso Davies as well. All you have to do is do the arithmetic, and there you are. So Bayern is, of course, going to argue that we are the Bundesliga's, or they are arguing, and they did this 4 years ago too, we're the Bundesliga's brand. I thought I told people not to do that. Anyways, we are the Bundesliga's brand. We're attracting more viewers on a global scale. We deserve a greater share of this so that we can continue to grow our brand and continue to attract viewers to the Bundesliga. A couple of problems with that. Number one, where did Bayern finish last year, Rory? I do believe there were 2 teams that finished ahead of them. And one of them happened to be your team, VfB Stuttgart. So is Bayern really the international brand at this point? And the second point that you could put up with there is that is it right for Bayern to say we deserve more of this money when all it's going to do is exacerbate the inequity within the league, make Bayern the champions? They've won 11 out of the last 12 titles, and if Bayern don't have a villain, if they don't have a competition, are they helping their brand? Are they helping the Bundesliga, or are they making it more boring? Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
I mean, we could probably do a whole show on it, really, couldn't we? And spend a lot of time mulling it over. You kind of think a richer Bayern means that as a side, they can invest more onto on-field players who therefore continue their superiority on the pitch. Apart from a blip of last season, they're now back top of the league by 6 points, obviously, which we'll talk about a little bit more in terms of this weekend's games. So yeah, it's kind of that vicious cycle in a sense, isn't it? And when you get to it every 4 years, you look back and say, okay, so who won the last 4 titles? Inadvertently so far, or for the last long while, it's been Bayern. So yeah, it's really interesting, and it's nice. It's a nice way to kind of whet the appetite to start the show, really, and kind of get us all a gasp for talking about footy and what's happened and what is happening on the pitch and who is the dominant team, really. But yeah, lovely way to start. Left-footed also saying, yeah, enjoying the Kiosk Club. Love hearing any news on German footy, which is fantastic. Justin and Mark also having some good chat in the comments as well. So yeah, lovely start to the show. But yeah, we better get into the football because we need to squeeze in some Champions League predictions as well. Of course, we've got match week. Oh, where are we now? Match week 6, something like that, of the elongated, Mahusive group stages that we have nowadays. Right. So let's kind of move the show on a little bit and talk about match week 13 of the Bundesliga, and we'll kind of work our way through some of the major headlines and some of the big games that we had. And a game that I want us to start with, Peter, is actually certainly one team that has gone under the radar, but also a club that don't seem to be getting too many people turning up to watch them. Unfortunately, is VfL Wolfsburg, who got over the line in a supremely entertaining match against Mainz on Sunday afternoon. It looked at many stages that Wolfsburg were not going to win this game. It kicked off into real insanity in the second half. Major players in the game for me, obviously from the Wolfsburg side of things, Amura looks like a player who's going from strength to strength, just all over the pitch. So direct in his play, making things happen. I thought he was excellent. Thiago Thomas also had his merits to the match. And then, of course, we had super sub Jonas Wind, who, just does what he does off the bench inadvertently as well. And I know that's an interesting point for Wolfsburg fans as to what do you do with Jonas Wind, because he's been a real key asset for them so far, and their form. They're one of the form teams, in the league table. They have an excellent away record. Obviously, they're at home this weekend. And by hook or by crook, Peter, they just found a way to get past Mainz. We can talk about the away side a little bit and how they might be kicking themselves at some of the goals they gave away and chances that they may be spurned to go either 4-2 up and maybe finish off the match and cover that. But yeah, we've certainly not talked about Wolfsburg too much, although they've been on the tip of our tongues the last few weeks as their form has certainly increased. But yeah, what have you seen about Wolfsburg? Because I know you were also not a huge fan of Ralf Hasenhüttl's early time and tenure, whether it was a bit most of last season or even the start of this season. But things have turned around significantly, and they find themselves in 5th place.
Indeed. Speaking of kickoff times, I was actually glad that this one was not competing with any other matches so that I could sit and enjoy it and watch it from a tactical angle. And I'm pleased to report that I have done a complete 180 on Ralf Hasenhüttl. I was not pleased with his early tactics. I thought that they were far too complex. But I really think he did an ingenious job here. What he's done in the past few weeks is he's basically set up a 4-1-4-1 in which the midfield is run by a rather deep-seated holding six, the captain Maximilian Arnold. Ben Stardai in midfield is something that I initially thought was going to be a terrible idea, but it turned out to work out quite well. The reason being is that the team can very, very quickly shift to a 4-3-3 in attack. And then off of the ball, they can morph back into a 5-3-2 very, very easily. And all of the actors play a very, very important role in this. Particularly versatile actors like Dardai, like Baku, like Male. Now, on the prediction show, Mark and I were talking about Dennis Vavro and Konstantinos Kouliarakis, these two central defenders who have done a fantastic job. They actually had a subpar match, in my opinion. But of course, as you mentioned, I mean, you're right to mention that Mainz are absolutely kicking themselves here. They deserve to win this game, and in so many, in so many respects, they were the superior team. And they defended exceptionally well, with the exception of the two lapses on the goals, which that was Andreas Hanke Olsen, who came in for the injured Danny Da Costa. Da Costa was injured in the 5th minute. Yep. Hanke Olsen, the Norwegian, who happens to be a natural center back, he just simply wasn't ready for action. And in point of fact, I believe Thiago Tomas was credited for the goal that Hanke Olsen turned into his own net.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure why, but in any event, yes, this was Mainz were incredible. The second Mainz goal in particular, this was Paul Nebel and Jonathan Burkhardt just absolutely banging it home. I think that was the third Mainz goal, not the second one. The second one was a good team goal from Mainz. Although there's some controversy because Amora was down on the pitch and play might have been stopped in that instance. But the third Mainz goal was just absolutely brute force between the two of them. And the headline in the Sportbild, I had enough kiosk, but it said "Erst Nebel, dann Wind." For our non-German speaking viewers, Nebel, or Paul Nebel, who has been so fantastic. His last name translates to fog. So we had the fog and the wind there at the Volkswagen Arena on Sunday afternoon. I think that the key to winning the match tactically, I still have some flowers to present to Ralf Hasenhüttl, was the fact that he switched to a 4-4-2 diamond in those final minutes, in which you had Wind and Behrens up there. I mean, the first pullback goal was, of course, all Wind. That was just absolutely brilliance from the Dane. The second one, and there was a little bit of offside controversy on this, unfortunately. It was an incredible service from the captain, Maximilian Arnold, who has always been a set piece wizard. But the pressure that they were able to apply and the way that they were able to break that Mainz defense down, which had been compact, which had been quite good, was due to his major tactical shift there in the final 10 minutes. And as I was mentioning, this is a very, very flexible formation that can switch between three different shapes, very, very fluidly and very, very quickly. So it's, yes, I am prepared to get behind Wolfsburg here in this instance for now. For somebody like me who always, harbored some sort of a fascination for the tactics of this team, also had to watch them every week when John Anthony Brooks was playing for them for my old Deep Scout column. I had grown very, very disillusioned with the successive coaching regimes after Oliver Glasner. I mean, the Mark van Bommel days, the Florian Kohfeldt days, and then Niko Kovac, who was sort of the bane of my existence. So perhaps some of my cynicism was misplaced, but I'm certainly prepared to turn around now and give them respect and give them props, including their Premiership trained head coach, Austrian head coach.
No, it was a great Sunday watch. Mainz will be kicking themselves all the way home. That's for sure. But like you say, they played a great game, more or less. Just that final bit. And as you already mentioned, Peter, when you've got someone like Maxi Arnold on set pieces, just so reliable to put in a dead ball situation that's going to be on the money. And Vin does well to kind of stoop his head a little bit, and the header is well placed enough. It's not exactly in the corner, but gets through Zentner for 4-3, and like we said, pushes the Wolves further up the table. Overall now in 5th place, just 3 points behind 4th placed RB Leipzig now, and they have just shot up that league. And I know there's a lot of chat on social media, for example, saying how condensed, maybe not the top of the league, but the middle of the table is very open, Peter, because quite a lot of teams are not quite sure how they're going to play a full season, and are maybe unsure of where exactly they're going as teams, because one defeat or 2 wins or 2 losses might put you from 5th down to 14th roughly. So it's a very interesting table, not quite as tight as the Spider, of course, which is absolutely bonkers right now at the top. Just an absolutely mental league that, which we love to follow as well. But yeah, great entertainment on Sunday. Then let's do a little bit of a flip reverse 2 days prior. Let's go to Friday night, and what was a similarly crazy second half, Peter. And I was out at dinner, and so I missed the first half basically, and so I kind of got lucky in that sense, and missing the Union first goal, where Nubel doesn't exactly cover himself in glory, unfortunately for that one. But otherwise, this is maybe another game where we're talking about the side that have lost, who have played a pretty good game. But would you agree? Do you think Union will be kicking themselves on the trip home? Because I mean, we can talk about Stuttgart, and we can talk about the GOATs, which is Voltemade, obviously, and his impact off the bench, and how all that went, and the early Christmas present from the Union goalkeeper to allow Atakan his first goal. But overall, especially from set pieces, I was absolutely quaking in my boots anytime Union got a corner. Just like Arsenal, the team from set pieces. What do you reckon?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself there. Yes, you're absolutely correct. Well, Union certainly exceeded our expectations. We didn't have a lot of. I personally did not have a lot of expectations for Union in this one. I thought the midfield tandem of Rani Khedira and Andres Schäfer played exceptionally well.
Very well.
I think that yes, they were really they were a breath of fresh air and a pleasant surprise. I'd like to see the two of them paired together once again in the future. A player like this left-hand side of Union, where you have Rota and Hollerbach, or Hollerbach girl. They're always dangerous, and I think the decision to start Tim Skarka the last 2 matches has also been the right one. Even because he's also, I mean, he came up as sort of a left rail player himself, and one of the reasons that he was always loaned out at Union is because he never really fit into Urs Fischer's system. Mm-hmm. And what Svensson has been doing is slowly and steadily and methodically, and perhaps a Danish fashion, building a solid team out of this. I felt a little bad for ex-Stuttgarter Wu Yong-jong, whom, if you caught the second half of the broadcast, that might have been your... I mean, good God, the cameras focused on him just looking exhausted and dejected the entire time after he had been subbed off. Yeah. He had indeed worked his socks off and played an incredible game. The mostly forgotten American striker Jordan came on and had a couple of good chances towards the end there. I think that in this case, we really do have to bow to Sebastian Hoeneß and the tactical tweaks that he made at the half, bringing on Voltemade for Stergiu, reformatting to a 4-4-2, slotting Wagnermann back as the fullback. Mm-hmm. It just was the absolute golden touch. Now, Reunau was poor on all 3 goals, although I don't really. I mean, the thing there is that with Reunau and this young kid that they've had filling in the Union back three, his name is Querfeld. He's an Austrian kid. I'm not exactly sure how you defend Voltemade in those situations. I mean, he was superb. The way, his touches and forward momentum. You could have mistaken him for Messi, except for the fact that Messi is 5'8" and
Yes.
and Voltemade is nearly 2 meters tall.
Mm-hmm.
So that was I don't know quite how you defend that. That's truly amazing. You have all the reason in the world to continue to get excited about Nick Voltemade. He's also been tearing it up for the Germany U21s.
Yeah.
The razzle dazzle that he supplied on Friday night was only superseded by what we saw from Jamie Gittins in what was otherwise a horrible match on Saturday evening. So Voltemade and Gittins, if people want to check out their goals from the weekend, and particularly the sublime touches that they employed, and just fearlessness in driving at goal, and just elegance in finishing it off. Those guys, they were the real stars of the weekend, even though Jamal Musiala also scored a brace. I wanted to mention Jorbe Vertessen's dive at 90 plus 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I was Tobias Welz's booking of how many Union players did he book? I think he booked
4, maybe, including...
And Svensson too. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he booked, I just looked it up. He booked Leite, Vertessen, Doeki, Kadira, and Svensson, all without putting the card back into his pocket. The rule in the Bundesliga this year, and this is strictly enforced, is that only the captain is allowed to argue referee decisions with the referee. So I don't know if you can get that tape somewhere. Maybe it's on a highlight reel somewhere, but it's beautiful because he has like the card, and then as soon as people come up to him, he just flashes the card a few centimeters in the other direction. Don't you wish you could do that, say like at the office or something, when everybody's running at you with a bunch of projects, and you just have your little yellow card up, and you're like, no.
Yeah, I must admit that gave me the sight of him going down initially gave me a fright, because live it looked like it was rather clumsy from Wagnerman, who was the wrong side to make the tackle, but luckily he doesn't make contact or enough at all. But yeah, like you say, Voltemade lit up Friday night in Stuttgart. He was, as it goes this season, in terms of a substitute appearance for 45 minutes, is one of the most complete performances I've seen from his introduction. Like you'd said, Peter, his all-round gameplay, his touch, just playing out pressing moments. That his first touch for the second goal was so good, it was really impressive, and got Stuttgart a rather important 3 points, pushing them back up the table a little bit, although still in this kind of very congested upper mid-table area, and at least gives VfB a bit of confidence, although it does scream to me, Peter, unfortunately, about a rather massive mistake that VfB have made in regards to Champions League registration, because unfortunately Nick is not registered to play obviously on Wednesday night against Young Boys, because you would expect to see him starting, because I very much would have liked to seen him and Demirovic from the outset, because Stuttgart just looked a different team with those two strikers up there again. That's definitely an oversight, I'm afraid, from the VfB point of view.
Once you attain the knockouts, they can re-register him.
Yeah,
if you attain the knockouts.
Yes. We'll talk about Champions League predictions in a little while, because that's all very scary as well. So we'll move on then and talk about a couple of other games in more detail, and then we'll just fly through the rest, because there were a few games that, as Peter alluded to, were less exciting and pleasing on the eye. Let's go to Munich, and what was another exciting game that unravelled on Saturday afternoon. An important, yet another win for Bayern on the back of their first outing, full outing without Kane, and so obviously that is an important thing for them to show that they can score goals and obviously respond to not having that out-and-out striker. There's no Chupo anymore, no Chupo Moting to do the job, to call on his services as the emergency man. So yeah, I mean, it was an interesting... It was a competitive game in the sense that obviously Heidenheim came back into the match through some absolutely tragic defending from Bayern initially. So Honsak gets the goal to make it 1-1, if I'm following my ordering right here. But luckily enough for the record champions, Peter, they had another rather useful super sub to call upon in the shape of Jamal Musiala, who came on, as you said earlier, to bag a brace. Not bad talent to be able to ring in and change a game. His fine form carries on. We've got what's brilliant about the Bundesliga, and it always has been since we've been doing the show at least, is that we really are unraveling these great young talents and seeing them thrive. Obviously, the contract for Musiala is something that's an interesting point. But what did you reckon to this one? Was it Bayern just kind of teasing us, allowing Heidenheim back into it once or twice? Did Heidenheim really have a sniff on Saturday?
I don't think so. No, for me, the outcome was never really in doubt. This was a dominant performance by the record champions, who do have their injuries, but I think all three debutants played exceptionally well. Daniel Peretz, the Israeli keeper who was in there for the injured Neuer. Sacha Bowie was back, as was Alexander Pavlovic. Those Bowie and Pavlovic both made cameo appearances in the Pokal there. Once again, we saw a decent match from Guerrero, who can play. He's been working in the midfield since his Dortmund days, but he's been playing right back for Bayern, and he was all the way up at 10 here. It's funny. Thomas Müller hurt his back while he was trying to attempt a bicycle kick, a Fallrückzieher. And that was the excuse for why Jamal Musiala was brought on. I don't know how legitimate that was necessarily. In any case, I don't think that this was much of a competitive affair at all. Not too much positive one can say about Heidenheim in this one. I mean, Honsak's goal came courtesy of a horrible mistake. Dorsch also scored while Bayern were asleep. And would you like to do the honors about our friend Sir Lord?
Sir Lord, yes. Stealing back his top speed record. Officially, he has it back again. For top speed. Although Peter, you probably have to do the honors of telling us the exact speeds if you have it to hand. I just picked up the article from Bully News and was delighted to see that. He'd got it back finally. Do you know what the top speed record was? Yeah. Are you still with us, Peter? I just had a little bit of a signal drop. Are you still there?
Are you there, Rory?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. I think we froze up for a second there.
We're good.
Sir Lord has frozen us. He was too fast.
He was that fast.
not too much else to say about that one. We can move on to the problem now is, of course, that Bayern, courtesy of this victory and Frankfurt's draw, they've opened up this 6-point gap at the top. And as some people may have already heard, Uli Hoeneß has already predicted that Bayern will have the league sewed up by Easter. So we'll see if that may come true. When it comes to Frankfurt, Augsburg, of course, Frankfurt were thrown out of the Pokal by Leipzig, quite surprisingly so, after what was a very, very lethargic performance and some questionable tactical decisions by Dino Topmüller. Mark and I covered that on the Thursday show. What we saw here from Frankfurt, unfortunately, and this was another game that had a lot of refereeing controversy in it, but we found that Marmoush was having some significant difficulty working deep for the second consecutive game. We saw both Nkunku and Brown have a great deal of difficulty working in that left back slot. The midfield, which had to be retooled a little bit with Dahoud and Tuta, was just simply too slow and unimaginative. Chaibi has proven once again why he was dropped from Topmüller's consideration earlier this season. His body language is awful, and his fitness level does not look sharp. Maybe it's time to talk about Cua Santos once again after these two humiliating goalkeeping errors from Kevin's Trapp in the 2-2 draw with Augsburg. You just cannot perform like that on this level. And unfortunately, Can Uzun's equalizer came off of a massive deflection from Philip Tietz. Although Uzun could have snatched the winner in injury time were it not for an excellent save from Labrovic, I should say. But what we're looking at with Frankfurt now is that their status as title contenders is fading quite quickly, I think, after these last two performances. And the fixture list, Rory, would you care to do the honors with the fixture list and maybe talk us through that a little bit and tell us, how difficult things really are for Frankfurt before the Christmas break?
Yeah, I can do. Obviously they have Thursday night honours in the Europa League. And again, sorry guys if we've got some frozen screens here and there, but luckily I think it sounds like you can hear us, which is the important thing. But yeah, Frankfurt travel to France on Thursday for action in the Europa League, but then it's a really interesting revisit and game against Leipzig next time out. Then the one more fixture that Frankfurt have prior to the Christmas break is at home to Mainz. So yeah, you can imagine that they'd be able to do that. And then into the new year, they'll go to St. Pauli, take on Freiburg, host Dortmund, Hoffenheim. So it's tricky for Frankfurt, but like you say, they really did trip up on the weekend. And Mark's Bavarian brothers, Augsburg, would be very happy with their away point because away from home they've been a bit of a disaster so far. I just want to revisit Bayern just for a second because obviously we're kind of talking about the title race in general. I know Justin asked a question prior to the show in respect to do we think Bayern could match or topple the record set for an undefeated Bundesliga season? And then I think we've half answered this in a sense, Justin. How far off are most teams, aka Frankfurt, Leverkusen, and Dortmund, forgetting Leipzig, from Bayern? So, Peter, hopefully you can still hear me. I think you look a bit frozen on my screen, but do shout up if you can hear me. And just, can you interject on whether you think Bayern could go undefeated and go into the detail of what Justin's asked in regards to how far off are teams really right now from the FCB?
Quite a bit. We saw the flaws in Frankfurt this weekend in the previous Pokal match. Leverkusen did win this weekend against St. Pauli, and it was a rather convincing win despite the last minute goal pulled back by Morgan Guilavogui. The problem is that Leverkusen have already drawn 5 times this season, and they only have a +10 goal differential. Leipzig appear to have averted the crisis for now. But they still have a tough schedule before the winter break, and their win against Kiel this weekend did come with some refereeing controversy as well, particularly on that second late penalty there. Wolfsburg, we'll have to wait and see. We spent a good deal of the beginning of this pod talking about how Wolfsburg, how Hasenhüttl has perfected his tactical system. The team could even improve once many of these injuries start to come back. Dortmund, as we saw on Saturday night, probably are not going anywhere. They'll be lucky to finish top 4. In terms of your boy Stuttgart, we'll see once the injuries clear over the winter break. It's not inconceivable for them to go on a strong run of form. But Uli Hoeneß, despite being an arrogant prick, I mean, he made this he made this prediction. Based on the fact that this is a massively retooled roster with 150 million euros in new summer transfers, pretty much all who have worked out well. And this is an even full-strength Bayern. We're talking about a Bayern who's, Paulinho and Kane have been in and out with injury issues and things like this. Until I see any great evidence to the contrary, I think that Bayern can pretty much dominate the league right now. Again, you have to take that Pokal result for what it is. It's the Pokal. Anything can happen with 90 minutes on the football pitch there. We've not seen anyone really throw a challenge to their league form. Yeah. So Eintracht for me was personally the last best hope, and I don't know if they win another league fixture this weekend. I don't really like the look of them against Leipzig next weekend, and the Rheinhessen derby will be really, really difficult just before the Christmas break there. So I don't know if they pick up another 3 points before we break for Christmas. Of course, there's also Bayern Leipzig on Friday night, and if Leipzig have shown anything this year, it's that, well, they can blow hot and cold. That's it's unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think just quickly run through the other results from this weekend, then we'll just do some Champions League predictions to finish off. I think what the games that we haven't really talked about or just mentioned were a 1-1 draw between SC Freiburg and Hoffenheim. So it just about stops the leaking from a Hoffenheim point of view after their amazing start under Ilse. They then go on this horrible run of games, but they managed to by hook or by crook get a 1-1 draw. Very much thanks to yet another young star in the making, Peter, in the shape of Tom Bischoff, getting his second goal, I think it was. Very impressive kind of driving run from him to get on the end of, get the ball back eventually and put that into the back of the net for 1-1 there. So fine for both sides, really, although Freiburg probably would have been a bit more disappointed with that draw. We've already kind of half mentioned Dortmund, although we have to mention Jamie Gittins, just another young star with a reputation, rising through the ranks very, very quickly. His name's starting to really spread across Europe now. And he has, of course, his trademark move, which teams are probably a little bit more savvy to now, but it's one thing being savvy to it, and it's another thing being able to stop it. Incredible preciseness and great finish to make it 1-0. But they, very much undid themselves from a corner kick. The foul was made by Pascal Gross, I believe. I'm not sure who was on. It might have been on Kleindienst. But Sturger puts away the penalty for a 1-1 draw there. Otherwise, more misery for Bochum. They were very much in the match against Werder, but the whole world's a stage. Jens Steger getting a header from a Dusk corner to get them all 3 points and get through what was a tricky away match, but it keeps Bochum very much right at the foot of the Bundesliga table. Definitely not what they were hoping for this season, and it looks very, very grim for them right now. So I think with about a few minutes to go, we will kind of just move to games to come and have a look at European footy. So if I get my fixtures ready to go, I certainly know who Stuttgart are playing. So just bear with me one sec. Peter, please do interrupt or shout out if you know the fixtures by heart, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, on Wednesday we have Leverkusen hosting Inter. Bayern that's on Tuesday. Leverkusen hosting Inter, and Bayern will be visiting Shakhtar. The German Red Bulls host Birmingham's Aston Villa, also on Tuesday. So you have 3 matches on Tuesday. The big one is Dortmund versus Barcelona on Wednesday. And Young Boys are coming to the MHP Arena in Swabia on Wednesday. Simultaneous kickoff there.
That's okay.
Young Boys Bern, not Young Boys Basel.
Right, let's start with Leverkusen Inter. That's an interesting match. So Leverkusen, it's a top 8 face-off. Inter in second, been going good guns. Are yet to concede a goal in the Champions League group stage out of 5 of their games, but they've only scored 7 goals. Leverkusen in 6th on 10 points. Obviously, they're at home. I mean, I fancy Leverkusen to break the Inter defence and finally make them leak a goal, but I'd probably say 1-1 on this one. What do you reckon, Peter?
I'll go for a 2-1 Leverkusen win. I think that, yes, Frimpong was rested. So the wingbacks, the true wingbacks, will be back in full force, Grimaldo and Frimpong. Tella has actually looked pretty good in his lead striker role. There is no stopping Florian Wirtz. And the back 3 was incredibly solid on Saturday against St. Pauli. So Leverkusen have won 5 on the trot, and I'm going to say 6 in this one.
Okie doke. Then Bayern Shakhtar, a massive game of 13th place versus 26th place. I think Bayern are going to secure a victory in this one, and I will go for 3-0, I reckon.
I'll go 2-0. I think there'll be a more workmanlike, an Arbeitssieg, as they call it in Germany, but 2-0 seems an apt result.
Yeah, very good. And then, Leipzig are taking on Aston Villa at the Red Bull Arena. Villa, who are just on the cusp. No, they're not. They're in 9th place, actually. So they're just outside of the top 8. They've had a really impressive European run. I know their form has dropped off in the last month or so. Certainly in the Premier League, for example, they've only conceded 1 goal. Leipzig, obviously, we know they've had a rotten run in the Champions League and had a really, really hard run of it in terms of fixtures, in terms of when that was made. So, doobie-doobie-doos. I will go 1-1. Fancy a draw here, Peter. Have you got enough confidence to say for a Leipzig win?
No, that's my tip. 1-1 draw. I think that's exactly how it's going to shake out. At least they get a point in the Champions.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, obviously, our resident Leipzig fan and legend, has gone for 2-1 Villa. Unfortunately, yeah, Justin, maybe you're not feeling too confident right now, which is understandable. Then, yeah, Wednesday night, as we've mentioned, we've got the Dortmund-Barcelona game. This is third versus fourth. Free scoring sides in the Champions League. Both have 18 and 16 in 5 matches, respectively. And Dortmund at home, they're so strong at home, aren't they? Gives me a bit more hope. This could be a crazy match, couldn't it? It really. I'll let you lead on this one, Peter. What do you fancy on this one?
I expect a high-scoring match. I expect that we'll get at least 5 goals out of this one. I'm going to tip Barcelona for the 3-2 victory, based on the fact that Lewandowski just loves coming home and and playing at Signal Iduna Park. But I mean, it's obviously it's must-see TV. You don't want to miss out on this, even though Stuttgart will be kicking off concurrently. And
this is very true. Well, yeah, I will say 3-3. It could be one of those games that just goes absolutely bonkers. Then, yes, of course, we have VfB Stuttgart hosting Young Boys. So this is 27th placed Stuttgart versus 36th and bottom Young Boys, who have conceded 17 goals in their 5 matches so far. Stuttgart, of course, have had a bit of they've had a nicer draw compared to some of the Champions League draws, it has to say. And it's frustrating because 3 of the 4 points that Stuttgart have amassed came in that absolutely fantastic away performance in Turin against Juventus. And so, yeah, the other games, obviously Real Madrid, you can't really think much about that. But either way around, this is must win for my lads. So again, I'll defer to you, Peter, to let you go first.
They'll win, Rory. They'll win, even if they have a thin Champions League roster. I think that Hoeneß has the solutions in this case. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere there in the capital of Baden-Württemberg. Although most people in Baden refer to the Stuttgarters as the Württembergers, but in any case, I think that this is. I think that they'll win. I think that they'll win 3-0. I'll predict a Demirovic Doppelpack. And maybe one from Mittelstadt as well. Should mention that we got the sad news today. I mean, there was a wonderful interview from Alexander Werle, the Stuttgart CEO, in Kicker. I wish I had time to translate it all, but our solidarity with the Stuttgart supporters and the harassment that they encountered.
Yeah.
At the Serbian border. So this they get to support their team in the first Champions League match since that 5-1 drubbing at Red Star Belgrade. And let's go into it with some optimism for some of the greatest German football supporters who happen to be friends with my FC Kaiserslautern club. I'll look forward to seeing you in the top flight next season.
Let's go. Yeah, I love that. Okay, yeah, I love your confidence, Peter. It makes me feel good about it. I do think Stuttgart, I will go for 2-0. Although we have been conceding too many goals this season, so a clean sheet would not go amiss there. So yeah, that's pretty much perfect timing for this evening. So I just want to draw your attention to what we're doing later on this week. All the usuals, prediction show, fantasy football. Hopefully, will be all good for Friday. But on Wednesday night, also going to try something a bit fun with our good friends of the show, the VfB Americana lads, and we're going to do something similar to what I did on my own, which was in reaction to a live match reaction after the Stuttgart game on Wednesday night. So circa, pretty much just straight off after the final whistle blows there. So going to give that a go, be joined by Travis, and we're going to run through it. The game, do some match scores for the Stuttgart boys, and just have a bit of fun there. So yeah, if you're a Stuttgart sympathizer and supporter, make sure you join us for that. We'll have a bit of fun and kind of wade through it all.
Damn, that is cool. I didn't know that. Yeah, I wish I'd known that before I agreed to write the match report for that.
Well, you can join in and type away whilst you're watching, Peter. But yeah, no, it should be good fun. Just something that we all wanted to do for a little while, and yeah, love chatting with Travis and the VFB Americana lads do such great work on their end with the pods as well. So make sure you check them out, and yeah, make sure you check that out on Wednesday night. We'll make sure we promote that on social media. Yeah, in the next few days, and hopefully we get to do a nice positive match reaction as well. Right, lovely stuff, everyone. Thanks so much for your comments and for watching with us. So just a few little last bits just to say, make sure you like, comment and subscribe. Of course, from an audio platform point of view, yeah, we're going super strong on that as well. Love all our podcast listeners. Thank you so much for everyone that sticks with us on that. Lovely way to listen to your Bundesliga footy on your way to work or in the gym or wherever you like to listen to that. Make sure you leave a rating and a review. And we're all over social media. We're on X. I'm on Blue Sky at least. So are Bully News. We're on Instagram. It's all over the place. Make sure you enjoy the fun, which obviously our great community do with us. So that's it for tonight. Great show. Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you on Wednesday, and we'll see you for the rest of the week for all the other Bundesliga content as well. Thank you all.